Hey everybody, we are back again for another off-season recap video, and today we're going to be looking at the Carolina Hurricanes. So the Hurricanes are really starting to become one of my favorite teams in the NHL. They're an incredibly good, young, talented team with a rock-solid defense, a ton of young talent, and they're a lot of fun to watch. Not to mention they're coached by NHL legend Rod Brind'Amour, and he has done a phenomenal job as their head coach. So I am very, very high on the Hurricanes. I've talked about them a lot on this channel. And just how much I think this team is improving, and I really think they have a chance to compete for a Stanley Cup, not only this year but for the foreseeable future with the way that team is built. So before we fully get into looking at the Hurricanes offseason here, I just ask that you please subscribe if you are new and hit that thumbs up button if you haven't yet. Both of those things help out so much and are greatly appreciated. But let's get into it, looking at what the Hurricanes have done this offseason. And it's been a fairly quiet offseason for the Carolina Hurricanes. They haven't added a whole lot, but they don't really need to add a whole lot. There's such a great core already in place there with Carolina. So their biggest addition is certainly Jesper Fast coming over from the New York Rangers. He's kind of a veteran third-line type guy who brings experience and just a good, hard-working and attitude and leadership into that locker room, which is really important because, as we'll talk about in a second, Justin Williams no longer there. They also added Joakim Ryan, kind of a depth defenseman, organizational depth guy. The Hurricanes really don't need any more defense. They're already absolutely loaded on the back end. But Joakim Ryan is a guy who has played at the NHL, also has spent plenty of time in the AHL as well, and it's just kind of an organizational depth defenseman. As far as subtractions go, obviously, the big one we have is Justin Williams, but there's a lot. Justin Williams is the big one, though. This was a guy who, such a leader for this team, Stanley Cup experience, multiple-time Stanley Cup winner, and a really big part of the leadership group in the locker room there. He has retired finally for good. He is gone. He didn't play the first half of last season. He came back midway through the year and then wanted one last run at the playoffs with Carolina. Obviously, they lost in the first round. Didn't go all that well for him, and now he's finally done. And they also lost some defensemen. Sami Vatanen, unrestricted free agent, moved on. Hasn't signed with anyone yet as a UFA, but not coming back to Carolina. Joel Edmondson, they traded away his negotiation rights as an RFA to the Montreal Canadiens, and he's now with Montreal. And Trevor Van Riemsdyk, he's moved on to be a depth guy for the Washington Capitals. So, they did lose 3 defensemen, but they're so loaded on the back end that they needed to let some of these defensemen go because they still have Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce, and Brady Shea as their top 4. They still have Jake Gardiner and Hayden Fleury as their 5-6 guys. Then they added Joakim Ryan, and they have some young defensemen looking to make that NHL jump as well. Jake Bean and Joey Keane in particular come to mind. And I really think that this is the year that Jake Bean needs to get a serious NHL look. He has done his time in the minors. He's a first-round pick. He's 22 years old now. They've been very patient with him. They've let him develop. He's been the number 1 guy down in the AHL. I think it's really time for Jake Bean to get an NHL look and have a serious chance to crack this roster and crack this lineup on a nightly basis because I think he's probably ready. And Joey Keane is 21 years old, not far behind him as well. So, it seems like they lost a lot on the back end, but they were just so stacked back there that it doesn't even matter. And they already have guys waiting in the wings to come in and take those positions. And honestly, they could probably lose even more on the back end. They could probably move on from Jake Gardiner or a Hayden Fleury if they want to, or even, Dougie Hamilton's a UFA at the end of this coming season. Maybe rather than signing him to a long-term deal and tying up cap space, you've got to re-sign Svechnikov. Maybe you focus putting the money on re-signing Svechnikov and let Hamilton go and kind of, let maybe Jake Bean or Joey Keane step up and move into a top 4 role maybe for 2 years down the road. So they're just so stacked on the back end in Carolina that when guys like Vatanen and Edmondson move on, it really doesn't even affect their lineup on a real big basis. So that's the moves that they have made so far. Again, it's been a quiet offseason. Obviously, they've had some pieces going out. They haven't brought a whole lot in, but it's not about bringing new pieces in for the Hurricanes at all. It's much more about letting the young guys kind of continue to grow and their core continue to mesh together. I mean, they're up front with Aho, Svechnikov, Teravainen. That top line is absolutely lethal. You've got some good veterans up there with Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, fourth line guy who's been in the league for a long time. And now Jesper Fast coming in. I think that's an underrated move. Jesper Fast is not going to directly replace the leadership of Justin Williams because he doesn't have the Stanley Cups and he hasn't been in the league as long. But to bring in a guy like that with playoff experience, who's been a New York Ranger for a long time and is a veteran in the league, to kind of offset a little bit some of that loss of Justin Williams, and they both play third line wing, so he's going to take Justin Williams' lineup spot. You add Jesper Fast in, and that's a really low-key good addition. And other than that, it's about letting kind of the young guys grow and continue to get better. Marty Necas is a guy who I think we're going to see get leaps and bounds better from where he is now. Morgan Geekie, young player down in the AHL looking to make that jump. Clark Bishop's seen some time in the NHL. Probably won't crack the opening night roster, but is a good depth guy to have if you need to call someone up when injuries eventually happen. This team is absolutely loaded. And I did a video earlier this offseason about why the Hurricanes are a dark horse Stanley Cup contender. It's just the talent there, the young talent there is unbelievable. The depth on defense is absolutely absurd. I don't think it's even close. They have the deepest defense in the NHL and certainly a top 5 defense core, and I would say definitely the deepest in the NHL. The big question for me with Carolina is the goaltending. Are Peter Mrazek and James Reimer goaltenders that are going to play well enough to get you that deep into the playoffs and even possibly win a cup? That's kind of the question, but we've seen them make it to the conference final with Peter Mrazek. He got really hot in the 2019 playoffs, and they made it to the conference finals. Eventually, they lost to Boston, but they did make it to that deep, to the third round. So, goaltending is a bit of a question, but if this team plays to their potential, they have a chance to make some serious noise in the Eastern Conference and really, really make a run in the playoffs. And with the loaded talent they have up front, the ability to score, the hardworking attitude, and then absolutely stacked defense, Carolina is a team to watch this coming season. I have really, really high hopes for them, and I think they're going to be very, very good this coming year. And they just continue to get better and better. And their young players are developing very, very well. And I am really excited to see what this team does this season. So that is my opinion on Carolina and their offseason. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon merchandise store and donation link are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.